Okay, they're going to pull it up in a second. You'll just let me know, Sky, when you have it. So we were completely bewildered. We were going, did they even go to Timpanogos? We don't have any witnesses at Timpanogos. We were asking the question, did they go to, did Charlie actually secretly go to Utah Valley Hospital? We had specifically mentioned that the Timpanogos hospital system, they use a system called Epic, did not speak to Utah Valley's Intermountain Health System. So it made it entirely no sense that Charlie's file would appear there, but it was there. And there was no way this person could have made it up because it had Charlie's personal details, even his home address back in Illinois, which was not available to the public. And we never got an answer on this. We were just like, why would Charlie's file be appearing where he is not? I actually was inclined to think that Charlie was actually brought there. But now I'm going, well, if what this source, and I trust this source, is telling us is accurate, then we may have our answer. All emergency room files on September 10th, which included Charlie's, were transferred out, electronic files were transferred out to Utah Valley. And that is a massive scandal. A massive scandal if we can get a hard evidence that proves that. And I'm going to show you that document now, by the way, because you probably don't remember this, but yes, we broke the story. There he was. It said Charles J. Kirk, and it had him in there, and we had more information that we just wiped because we wanted to protect the person who had given us this, but it did have also his, beyond his birthday, it also had his address, and other people were also in the system. So we're looking at Utah Valley's system, and Charlie was a patient on September 10th. Anyway, there is more, and that I could tell you, but I think it would identify a source, so I would rather not do that. All right, you guys, we should definitely take a break. I think we're about 30 minutes into this. We'll be right back. All right, you guys, our great nation turned 250 this year. We represent 2.5 centuries of possibility, growth, and some of the greatest minds in human history. What will the next 250 years look like? Next generation of Americans could be the most impactful, but first they must be given their chance at life. That's why I'm making this critical request today. Give a special gift of $250 to Preborn to honor our country's milestone anniversary and to celebrate our great future ahead. Your gift will help provide 8 ultrasounds. Preborn is helping today's mothers choose life by providing these free ultrasounds so that they can meet their baby for the first time. Help new mothers realize that they can give their baby life and that motherhood is indeed possible. Celebrate America's birthday with your $250 gift to Preborn today. To donate, simply dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby, or visit preborn.com/Candace, preborn.com/Candace. I also want to remind you guys about Tax Network USA, because plenty of people owe back taxes. Maybe that's you. Maybe you have years of unfiled returns, or maybe you file every year and still can't get ahead because the balance keeps growing. Maybe you withdrew money from a 401k or an IRA and suddenly got hit with a tax bill that you never expected. Whatever caused the problem, one thing is certain: the IRS penalties and interest keep adding up every single month. If you don't have a plan now, you could end up owing even more next tax season. Before the IRS starts sending more letters, garnishing wages, or freezing your bank account, call Tax Network USA. They have been helping taxpayers nationwide for more than 15 years, resolving back taxes, unfiled returns, and serious IRS problems. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Right now, they're offering a free IRS investigative call to find out exactly what you owe and what options you have to fix it. So call 866-686-1651 or visit tnusa.com/Candace. Again, that's tnusa.com/Candace. I see someone already mentioning in the chat, great idea. Where are the flock cameras? Surely we would be able to catch that shuttle on there. Yes, we should be able to do is it called a gamma request in the state of Utah? Somebody's going to catch this shuttle. I just know that that's just very precise and specific. And like I said, I trust the source. So go Max, people. Speaking of which, yesterday we received so many emails from surgeons and doctors and people that are in the medical field, because I did not even bother to traverse and give my medical opinion because I'm not informed. I trust the people who work in these industries to tell me things I need to notice. Similar to the t-shirt, and people going, that's a t-shirt on the ground. That's a t-shirt. It turns into plastic. Well, people who work in the medical industry were deeply bothered deeply bothered by Charlie's medical exam, the little bit that was published by the prosecution in their filing yesterday. And I just wanted to read you a couple of these emails that we received. This person wrote, "Dear Candace, so much gratitude for your razor-sharp investigation and intuition. I am a board-certified anesthesiologist with 25 years of clinical experience, and I have a solid grasp of anatomy. I agree with you and John Bray that the exploding mic theory is the best explanation of what we could grasp from the limited footage available. Briefly, number one, given the eruption of blood and or of a tissue emanating from Charlie's neck, it is clear that the large vessels of the neck, the left carotid artery and the jugular vein, were transected. This kind of extrusion is more consistent with an exit wound. However, because large blood vessels were involved, we cannot rule out the possibility that a bullet entering his left neck would have resulted in what we saw. Two, if Charlie was shot from the rear and the bullet exited the left neck, it would most certainly do what was observed. However, there is no evidence that he was shot from behind. Three, if Charlie was hit from the front, the momentum from the bullet would have sent his torso backwards. That is not what we saw. Four, a shaped charge in the Rode microphone would have sent a projectile from his R anterior chest upward and leftward, likely exiting from his left neck or entering his cervical spine. The projectile would have almost certainly damaged both lungs and possibly his heart. In other words, there would have been pulmonary hemorrhaging and possibly hemorrhaging around the heart as well. The exploding mic is thus the best fit from what we could see and what the coroner reported. The bullet fragments, however, are a mystery. I suspect what was found was not bullet fragments, but the casing of the shaped charge, which would have served as the projectile." I did want to say this, that piece right there about, I suspect, we just go up in that email that could have actually been from the shaped charge. I was asking my team that. I was going, why is the base assumption in this report, like when they send these tiny little fragments, 3 or 4 of which were unusable, pardon me. The ATF testified, I think that they received 5 fragments, 4 were unusable, and 1 was big enough for them to use. Why is the base assumption that you're looking at a bullet? It's like telling somebody the answer, like, hey, this is a bullet fragment, when we know that it's the same metal. It could have the same jacketing if you use a shaped charge. I was interested in that. It's something that, he is suspecting that what was found was not bullet fragments, but the casing of the shaped charge, which would have served as a projectile. I totally agree with that. He continues, no ambulance with resuscitative equipment or trained personnel immediately available, no defibrillators, no access to IV drugs. He certainly sustained a neck injury and his neck should have been stabilized before moving him. I think it wasn't stabilized because they were hiding what was on his shirt. It's my opinion. Given his injuries to the big blood vessels, he would have gone into hypovolemic shock, massive blood loss within minutes, and would have required cardiac resuscitation, which meant that chest compressions would have been immediately required to restore blood circulation. None of that was initiated at the scene and would have been nearly impossible to perform in the back of an SUV. In my estimation, he was murdered from a shaped charge on his R chest, and his security team did their best in a highly rehearsed fashion to get him the hell out of there before anybody could see what happened. I'm just going to stop that and say, this is somebody else's opinion. It is not mine. We'll stop there. But yeah, you get the point. And I do believe that there is so much evidence there and that's what happened. That he got hit by a shaped charge. And I think that there was no gun on the rooftop. There was a person who was told to run, and so that they could blame another decoy. Everybody's looking at Losey, and we are being lied to. I think we all agree. That's why you're here, right? This next person said that they're a transplant coordinator, previously a scrub nurse in the OR for years, and I worked at a level 1 trauma center. I have scrubbed in on more gunshot wounds than I could ever count. I've never seen thoracic trauma or hemorrhaging, for that matter, in a gunshot wound to the head or neck. There would have to have been a blunt force trauma to the chest, which would make a lot of sense if his microphone exploded under his shirt. Also, I was yelling at the TV when I was watching Barron's podcast the other day regarding the autopsy. It takes at least 8 hours for your deep core body temperature to reach 40 degrees in a morgue cooler. The timeline would only support about 3 hours in the morgue, depending on how much time Erica spent with him when she arrived. And that's if his body was ever taken to the morgue. Nothing about the case makes any sense, and it's infuriating. I thank God for all of your hard work. Go Max. Justice for Charlie. That was interesting too. I told you the speed of the autopsy is incredible. We were looking this up, and it is true that the protocol is to bring the body down to 40 degrees in the morgue. Usually, obviously, these things do not happen by morning time. You're prepared to be shipped, especially in a case this big. Why wouldn't you want to do the most thorough autopsy of all time? And that wasn't the circumstance here. It was rushed, but we did look up, even though it's not normal, doesn't follow normal protocol, it certainly isn't illegal to just instantly dive into doing an autopsy. The body, it's capable of doing that within, I think, what was it, 12 hours? 12 hours before they start to get decomposition. We were looking that up. So the body wouldn't have decomposed, but it's just not what they usually do. Everything was extraordinary. Like they just rushed it. And when you do the timeline of how quickly that all had to happen, it's insane. Why? Why would you want that rushed? Why would you want that rushed? I think we all know why you would want that rushed. I'm going to read one more of these comments actually from doctors that were writing on YouTube. One writes, I am a surgeon. Based on the medical examiner's report, the trajectory from the roof is not possible. Charlie was hit in the low neck. The medical examiner's report said much of his cervical spine was traumatically gone, and that the left side of C2 to C7 was obliterated. To have affected up to C2, it would have had to have been an upward trajectory from the point of entry on his neck. I heard a podcaster, Project Constitution, say that Charlie was also wearing a Rode transmitter at his left waist. If this had a shaped charge, the trajectory would make sense for entering the low neck and hitting his cervical spine. Tend to agree with you. I'm Team Rode Mike. After everything that I've seen, I am Team Rode Mike. So we will see. Anyway, I will take a really quick break here, and we will come back with some of your comments and thoughts.